Hello, everyone. I am so excited because today we get to have a really amazing chat with Holly. Welcome, Holly.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited. I always love talking to you. So, the people that do not know Holly yet, you just need to, because just like me, does not drive herself to the ground to run her business. In fact, we're going to talk about how you can, wait for it, build a business part-time. So a really big business, a real business, a business that brings you joy and money and everything you could dream for, but on a part-time schedule. Now, if you are watching us live, and we did have a few tech problems, so sorry we're late. Oh my gosh. Let us know into the chat. Just let us know that you can see us, that you can hear us, and that you are just as excited to have this amazing conversation with Holly. So let's dive in a little bit more. For the people that maybe don't know you as well as I do, I feel like a creep. Hello, all. You're so sweet. Oh my gosh. Okay, now I'm blushing. Just good. This face needed some colors. So for the people that maybe or not don't know you yet, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Holly Haynes. I am in Columbus, Ohio, and I like to say that I help you build a full-time business on a part-time schedule because 97, probably 99% of my business was built while I was working full-time in the middle of a pandemic while raising my twins, who are just now turned 9. But the majority of our business over the last 3 years has been built, and it's very full-time now on a very part-time schedule. And so that's what I'm really passionate about teaching about. And it's really digging into what I call life priorities focused business. So, how can you design the life that you want first and then build the business around that? So, yeah, so I'm in Columbus. I have twin daughters who are in third grade, and I retired myself and my husband from the corporate world after a 22-year plus career. So, this is my second career. I just turned 44, and it's been pretty cool. It's been a pretty cool journey.
Okay, well, first of all, you do not look like you're even close to your 40s.
Well, thank
So
you.
great job. No,
40
that's
are a guess, though. Let me tell you, like it's been a pretty cool decade so far.
that's really incredible because we've been talking about that for weeks, maybe months, maybe years. I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but we really often go up on the shiny object syndrome. We really go and like you see all of these things on Facebook that are offering you magical solution, and I can guarantee you that every single time you opt in, they're all similar, but we're not willing to do the work, and we're still sort of looking for that missing piece. So we're kind of walking around doing a whole lot of things. I always say that my first 5 years, which was in network marketing, I felt like I was a workaholic on a
Yeah.
hobby because I made like $2,000 a year.
Right?
Anyways, I am sure I'm not the only one, but we're working so much and we're not seeing necessarily the results, or we're signing up to coaching programs that are teaching us a lot of strategies that do not fit us and the life that we want, all that good stuff. So I'm really excited to have that conversation. So, where do we start? Where do we start if we want to build a full time business on a part time schedule?
Yeah, great question. So, what I like to say is you need to have a bigger why than what you think. So, we all hear, like, well, what's your why? What's going to get you up in the morning? To me, it can't be a dollar amount. It can't be, well, I want to make six figures. Is that really motivating? I don't think it is. It's just a number, right? What is that? So I always say, like, what does that number mean? To me, it has to be a number around like a feeling or a sensation. And so for me, when I was starting this business and working at home, because it was during the pandemic, I was like, I don't want to go back to work because I want to be able to put my girls on the bus. Like I want to put them on the bus and get them off of the bus. It's really important to me. And so I called it the bus stop dream. And I talked about it all the time. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make this work, but I'm going to figure it out. Maybe it's this business, maybe it's getting a different job, maybe it's working part-time, whatever. Like, what's that bus stop dream for you that's going to get you up and get you motivated? So that's the first thing I like to say. But the second thing I always teach is, when are you actually working on your business? I would argue that reading a book or listening to a podcast or a workshop is great. Like, you definitely need those things, but that's not working on your business, right? It's learning or getting yourself motivated or whatever the thing is. And so I was very intentional about setting specific business hours where I was actually working on my business, not doing other things. So for me, when I was working full time, it was very intentional. I would do 1 hour, because that's all I had, or maybe an hour and a half, Monday through Friday. So it was 1 hour. It was most of the time 6 a.m. because that's when everyone was sleeping, but I got it done. And then on the weekends, this is the piece that I think most people miss, is you can't do everything in 20 to 30-minute increments. You have to have more than, a 20-minute session to build out your business plan or whatever the strategy that you're following is. So on Saturday mornings, I would set aside what I call creative time. And it's where I would have at least a 2-hour block to do something. It varied by week, right? It might be like implementing something I learned. It might be like visualizing what the next steps were, but it was more than 20 minutes, because during the week, I mean, let's face it, the schedules get crazy and it's busy and it's 20 minutes here and 30 minutes there, which is fine, but you've got to come up for air for a little bit longer than that. So for me, that's Saturday mornings. I still do that to this day, because for some reason it just feels very relaxing to me when everyone else is like asleep and you can just like get a blanket and do what you need to do. And then on Sundays, I take about a half hour and plan for the next week. And so I just did that really consistently over and over and over again. And I like to say that consistency trumps talent. You don't have to be the best in the game. You just have to stay in it. So if you design a schedule that's going to burn yourself out, so let's say that you get this awesome idea from this amazing summit and workshop, and you're like, I'm going to work 2 days straight on this, whatever the thing is. And then you're totally burnt out. You've missed out on life for 2 days, right? You're exhausted, and then you don't do anything for a week. So it's much easier to do it in teeny tiny pockets where you're just taking daily action to be consistent. So the first thing I did was set business hours that I could follow. I still follow it to this day. And then the second thing I do is I set theme days, which I still follow, because for me, I mean, I don't love getting up early, but if I do get up early, I don't want to spend all my time figuring out, well, what the heck am I going to do? So if it's 5:45 and I know I have to start working at 6, I don't want to like spin my wheels on what the best task to be is. So I set theme days, which just would make that really easy, right? So, Mondays might be writing content, Tuesdays might be podcast interviews, Wednesdays might be, I'm going to catch up on workshops or trainings, whatever the thing is. And you could change the themes, but what I found is it helped me be consistent, because I wasn't switching between tasks, right? Like, you do 3 podcast interviews in a row and then sit down to write like, a blog post or something, you're like, oh, my brain is just not going to work. So I like to keep it like very organized by theme. I still do that to this day, and it just makes it easy. Like, how can you just make your activities simple?
I love that. Is there anything more exciting than picking up your girls at the bus stop?
Right?
Hear you
How
sleep.
is this today? It's so fun.
It
Yeah.
is the absolute best. I'm not gonna lie. It took a little bit. So my husband is overseas now, and it took like 3 weeks for him to come off the bus and be excited to see me. He'd be like, "Where's my dad?" But all is good now. He's really excited. You get the biggest hugs. It is the
Yeah,
best.
it is the best.
Honestly, I miss that so much with my oldest working in corporate. So that is an awesome dream.
Yeah.
Um, I love that you put that emotion as well to a dollar amount or what it would take for you to be able to do that. We hear way too often those random numbers. And you know what? When you have random numbers in random goals, you get random results.
Right. Exactly. I love that.
Right? And I love that you're planning on Sunday and you know what you're doing every single day, because clarity is, I mean, I know it's like, it sounds like the most boring subject ever, but oh my gosh, when you know what you're working on, when you know where you're going, when you know where your goals are, things starts to be a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think you basically said it, and that is I think people want this like complicated plan, and it's really not. It's really how can you make it so simple that it's so easy for you to be so consistent in building your bus stop dream. Like how can you be so consistent that you will not miss it? And so that's really how I tried to break it down. And it really came down to, okay, these are my business hours. This is why I'm getting up. So I'm staying motivated, but also, this is what I'm doing today. I'm not spending my time figuring out what to do that's already figured out before I sit down to my desk.
I love that. Can you imagine waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and not knowing what you're supposed to do? I guarantee
Right?
you, pre-caffeine, you're not going to figure it out.
No.
This is not the time.
Yeah, and
What
I'm
are
not
you gonna do?
advocating that you have to work at 6 a.m., but you have to figure out when that time is. And let's say it's, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You've had, almost half your day already. So you don't want to spend your business time trying to figure out what that next thing is.
I love that. Now, there's so much things that we could could do into our business, right? There is a lot. I'm not saying that we'll never run out of things to do or to learn. That's like a guarantee. There seems to be new social media, new everything. Regardless, what I hear
Mhm.
often is like, do I need a website? Do I need this? Do I need this? And where I see is we're all getting sidetracked with everything else that we could do except for, let's call it, the daily tasks that we should do to get clients. Is there something that you would recommend that is done consistently, um, before anything else?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so there's two sort of pillars that I would answer that question on. And that is, I always ask myself, is this an income producing activity? And sometimes you don't know, especially at the beginning of business. So if you're not sure, I always go back to content. And the reason I do is because if you are creating educational content that is serving your audience, the content will build your authority and build trust. I say that trust builds relationships, and relationships are what leads to sales. So if you're stuck, what educational content can you share? If you don't know what to do next, when was the last time that you shared something that would help somebody literally right now? And so that's what I try to do every single day is put myself out there to say, you know what can I share that can help somebody so that they know, hey, next time I have a question or I'm looking for something, I'm going to go ask Holly because she shared this with me. And those theme days, like they're saving me hours. And so that when I get stuck, that's what I always go back to.
So let's go back to your theme days. Do you want to share with
Yeah.
us a little bit what you do each day?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely change, but for the most part, I almost always have, and I would say at the beginning of your business, or even, if you're more advanced, at least 1 to 2 content days, going back to what I just shared previously. And that's because I just believe content drives everything. So, whatever that looks like for you. I have a podcast, and I truly believe in the power of being on podcasts or summits or things like that and just educating and teaching in a way where people can see your face and they can connect with you. So I have a day that I call community day, and that's when I like to schedule podcast interviews or summit interviews. I mean, sometimes you can't control it, but for the most part, I like to keep it on one day. If you're client serving, then you can have like a client serving day. You might have 2 of those days. So I like to keep my client calls on certain days because it's a different mindset, right? Like, I mean, I can show up in like sweatpants and my chai tea and write like 10 hours worth of content if I wanted to, but I'm pretty sure my clients would rather me show up like this when I'm like, a little bit more put together. Not to say that you have to be fancy, but it's just like a different mindset depending on what you have to do during the day. And then my favorite day is what I call CEO day. And that is when, even when I was working full time, and my CEO day would be an hour instead of a day, but that's when I was really looking at the bigger picture of our business. And that's really where it's like, what's working, what's not working, where are we at with the bus stop dream? Like, are we making progress? Are we not making progress? Does something need to change? It's not in the weeds. It's like the bigger picture day. And it's also the day where you can just kind of take a pause and catch up on what you need to catch up on. So those are some examples. I've had clients who have like Pinterest days or build your website day or, hey, these funnels make my head spin. So every Thursday, I'm going to do as much work as I can on email marketing and funnels. But I know that if something comes up later in the week, I'm just going to add it to this day so it doesn't like take over your whole week. So those are a couple of examples.
I love that. I love those a lot. I mean, content, first of all, is absolutely everything. There's content everywhere. There's SEO, searchable content, content that can be seen forever. You know, the compound effect of you creating all that content is insane. And also at the base of, you know, even building that email list, which is so incredibly important in your, we talked about it a little bit, but I think before we started, so a sustainable business, a business
Mm-hmm.
that's going to last long term. So it's not just about working on, you know, how am I making money today? How am I getting clients today? How am I getting closer to my bus stop dream today? Which I love, by the way. I have this image of just you having a wall and getting closer to
Yeah,
the bus. Anyways, that's the ADHD, I think.
I love it.
Changing subject. But what would you say is the number one thing you recommend that we keep in the back of our minds so that we are also working on a business that is sustainable, that is going to last a long time, and that is not going to drive us into a burnout over the years?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is like Rome isn't built in a day. And I think a lot of times I always sort of relate to building a house. So a lot of times, like, it's way more fun to decorate the house, right? Like, it's so much more fun to like buy new curtains and like paint it and get all the accessories. But like building the like cement foundation is like super boring and messy and not really fun. And so the first couple of months or even year in business, you're building that foundation. And the foundation for me is very much on what I call legacy content. So again, how are you educating? How are you sharing? How are you getting yourself out there? And also, do you have something that is not social media, which is like a whole nother topic? But do you have something where you can reach people and educate and help and serve that you own? So whether that's a website, an email list, a blog, whatever, podcast, whatever your like platform of choices, those are the things that I would focus on.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. It's awesome. If you are watching and have any questions, put them into the chat. And as well, of course, if you're watching the recording, say hi to Holly and myself, ask your question. We'll definitely come back to them. Now, I know, Holly, you had a really epic gift that was gifted to the Yes She Can bundle, which you can still get for a few days. So make sure you get your hand on that. But it was the simple, scalable launches, which I'm going to put the link right below this video, which you can download until Sunday. Do you want to tell us a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about that? Because
Yeah,
launches can be
well,
scary.
the cool part is I have never given that away ever. Like, you guys are the first
Oh
group
my
that has ever given it. The only other people that have had access to it are actually in our mastermind or in our membership. So it's really exciting for me to be able to offer that to you. And one of the things that I will share is, you know, when you read or listen to specific podcasts or insert whatever the educator of choice is, they give you like 8,000 steps to launch your course or your membership or whatever it is. And it is so overwhelming, so overwhelming. And if you're like me and you're working full time and you like have kids and you have a lot going on, it's like, you know, one, I'm not going to spend millions of dollars on ads. And two, I cannot take 8,000 steps to launch this thing. So like, what do I do instead? And so I really like to keep it super simple. It's the process that we follow. And it really breaks it down into, hey, how can I just make this like a very organic, rewarding, fun process? Because by the way, selling is actually something that you have to do in your business. And it's what I teach inside that course. And I give you the framework that just makes launching simple.
I love that. Launches do not have to be complicated. And
Yes.
especially if you are just starting, For the love of all things, keep it simple. Keep it simple
Yes.
because an overcomplicated plan could be the reason that your launch doesn't do as well because it's overwhelming and it's exhausting. Let's all be honest.
Mhm.
It is exhausting if you do so many new things all at the same time. You become exhausted. And when you're supposed to show up, you be your best self and be present and show up with energy, you are left with none. So I highly encourage you to go and download that resource like right away. Like don't even put your socks on, no need for coffee, just skip all of that. Download that free that resources from Holly. I'm having problems with words at the moment. I want to say thank you so much, Holly, for all of the insights, the inspiration today, and to everybody in the Facebook group and on YouTube. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.